You're listening to Shameless Feminine Speaks with your host, modern-day shaman and sister to all, Rebecca Haywood, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second broadcast
Yay.
of Shameless Feminine Speaks. I'm your host, Rebecca Haywood, and this is my lovely, irreverent co-host, Sheena Metal.
Hi, I'm Shameless Sheena. Welcome to the show.
That's right, Shameless Sheena. I love it.
I'm just here to be shameless.
Yeah, and today's topic, our show title is Sorry Not Sorry. And it actually came from our loving sister here sitting next to me.
What?
Yes, in our last show you
That
brought
doesn't
up...
sound like something I would say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry, my friends.
Sorry, not sorry.
Stop apologizing, girls.
Yeah, you talked about how often you find yourself having to, or used to, having to find yourself apologizing just for being you.
You know, I used to work at another radio station, which was all guys except for my co-host and I. So it was an all-guy station, and we were the girls doing guy talk from a girl's perspective. And, you know, the guys were very lovely, but they never apologized for anything. But we were made to apologize for everything. Either we were too dirty, or we were too slutty, or we were being too abrasive, or we were being just like male hosts, or whatever we were doing. It was like we were always working for Goldilocks, and the bed was never quite right. So I didn't even realize until years later that everybody doesn't spend their whole lives apologizing for who they are. But women are often made to apologize for who they are, because it's sort of like, oh, so you want this gig in a man's world? Well, then you better be able to juggle and jump through fire and walk on hot coals and make a dog speak and talk to the dolphins. And it's like all guys have to do is just kind of show up and do something. So I think that modality is beginning to change. But in the meantime, so many of us have dealt with that our entire lives, if we're over 20 years old. And so I love that it's changing for younger generations, but still, how do we heal ourselves so that we're not always apologizing? So sorry. I'm not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, and I think every woman can relate to it, and I think that men can really relate to that these days as well. Maybe less in that realm of being too, right? But there is, as I spoke about in the first episode, that aspect of men feeling like their manhood is on probation and not quite knowing what the rules are, and feeling the need to apologize for being a man. And so I think that both men and women can really relate to this aspect of kind of apologizing for yourself, apologizing for your true nature, being misperceived, being unheard, being unseen. And, you know, I posted a little bit about this, that I wanted to start today in talking about the whys of our sorry, and not just the whys, W-H-Y, but also the Y, the letter Y, which stands for the yield. So, you know, the whys of it, you know, why we apologize. Do we apologize to make them feel better? Do we apologize to get out of an uncomfortable situation? Do we apologize to win their love, right? I think that this is often something that we find ourselves, especially in the professional world. We're kind of apologizing just to keep the peace, to keep our job.
To keep our job, because we know there's 20 other men they could use instead of us. I've grown up in the entertainment business, and that was the experience, that you should just be lucky that you're a girl and you're here. Don't make waves.
Yeah. And that's generally, I'll always bring everything kind of back to that ancient shame that we carry, because that's what's underneath it all. You know, I wouldn't think of either of us as very submissive women. And I think a lot of women wouldn't quite think of themselves that way. Empowered, right? We're very empowered women. And yet, why do we still find ourselves saying sorry, even when we're not sorry? And it does lend back to that ancient feminine shame that I read about from my chapter in Shamanism in the New Millennium. And that aspect of feeling inherently unsafe and attempting to avoid the conflict, right? Because we know that conflict in our very selves, whether we've experienced it in this lifetime or not, whether we've experienced physical violence, sexual violence, or any violence in this lifetime, our collective memory knows that violence. And so there is an aspect of just, maybe men, you don't quite know this, but as a woman, I know that you can kill me. And I know this is a little heavy to come into this topic.
We're 7 minutes in, and we've already gone to the sexual oppression, and now we're on to murder.
Hey,
where do you go from there, Rebecca? We got 40 more minutes.
I know, right? Well, I like to swim in the deep end, people. You know this about me if you know me. And it really, there is that underlying fear in us that may be very subtle. It may not even have a voice in your head, but it is this vibration that we carry in our body that is just seeking to keep that peace, seeking to, we'll play dead, right?
Right.
So, be mindful of that as you're asking yourself this question: why do I apologize, right? Why is that a habit of mine? Why does it just fly out of my mouth so quickly? Why has it become a habit in my relationships, not just with men, but also with women, right? Because that habit, once it becomes a habit, it stretches across the board. So be really mindful of that why for yourself, and to kind of get to the heart of that why. That's why the other why, the yield, okay? Who or what are you yielding to? Okay, this is the question to ask yourself. Who or what are you yielding to, right? And the what can be a value, right? Like, don't rock the boat, right? Don't be a bitch, right? Don't be contrary, which
don't be high maintenance.
Yeah, which in a woman's world, contrary is often, it quickly goes to being defined as the bitch. What or who are you yielding to? And then also the flip side of that yield is, what is the gain, right? We talked about keeping your job, keeping the peace.
Keeping your relationship together.
I know for me, in relationship with men, it's often I'm really taking care of them. I'm taking care of their ego. I'm taking care of their feelings, and really not just with men, with people in general. And it's that mothering superpower in me that is the caretaker, that wants everybody to feel good and feel loved and know that they're loved. And it's that empath in me that can feel that they're feeling less than secure in that, right? And, it's really an interesting topic, because you and I have kind of talked about this personally.
Quite a bit.
I used to really preach, right? There's, what's the saying? Darby said it in his talk the other night. Better to be kind than to be right, right? And I definitely have lived by that in my life.
It's Wayne Dyer, right? I think he said it was Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. And yes, I've definitely lived by that in terms of, when somebody really wants to be right, and they want me to be wrong, it's at some point you just go, okay, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Like, I'm just so sorry, just to get out of the discussion, get out of the conflict, just to be done with it.
Back away slowly, people.
Yeah, it's clearly important to them. Their feelings are on high, and, it's generally not that important to me. However, in my intimate relationships, that's not what I subscribe to. And the reason being is because, to me, it's important, authenticity, right? And although it might be a technique that I use in the moment, right, of like, okay, I'm so sorry that, you're feeling this way, that what I've said made you feel this way, and let's talk about it when things calm down a little, right? And kind of use it in that way, but always come back to that authentic dialogue of really, here's what I said, and really, here's what you heard. And so, where does my responsibility begin and end there?
Right.
Right. And and I've also evolved, and this is what we've talked about, is I feel that we're in a time where saying sorry, even though we're not sorry, it's not necessarily better to, I mean, it's better to be kind than right, for sure. But to say we're sorry just to appease one's feelings, I feel that we're living in a different time now, and that, at least for me on my journey, I'm feeling that force of calling it like it is, and rather than taking care of other people's feelings and letting them know that they're loved, yes, I'll let them know that they're loved, and yet I'm not going to sacrifice my truth in the name of them feeling loved, right? Because my truth is, it's not against anyone's love. It's not against love itself,
I have to say really quick that in the story I was telling about when I worked at that other radio station, I honestly really thought I was sorry. I didn't know. It wasn't like I said sorry begrudgingly. I really was sorry because I clearly was not what everyone wanted. I really do subscribe to I'd rather be kind than right. So I just couldn't figure out why, no matter what I did, I was always the wrong person. And I always assume it's my weight. And at that point I had lost like 100 and something pounds and gone into the program director's office all excited because I was so much thinner than I am now, much thinner than I have been in my life I am now. And he sort of looked at me and said, it's not going to matter. You're just not the right kind of woman. And I never quite understood. That was the beginning of me understanding that maybe it wasn't me, but so many things in my life, it just never occurred to me. I had a reunion 3 or 4 months ago with some friends of mine from high school, and my high school drama teacher, whom I worshipped and considered my second father, he always just told me, these are roles you'll get, these are roles you won't get, you won't work till you're 40, I'm doing you a favor, this is what it's like. It never occurred to me that there was any sexism involved in it until a couple of months ago, and I've been out of high school since 1985. I was sitting down with a bunch of girls I had gone to theater with, I hadn't seen in 30 some odd years, and they were like, oh, really? Because what he told me was I always had to play the slut, and he told somebody else I always had to play the innocent ingenue, and I was like, oh, there was some sexism involved in that girls that look like this are this, and girls that look like that are that, and girls that look like this are this. We have to stop packaging women into boxes based on aesthetics, because it's just not okay. We don't do it to men, and it shouldn't be done to women. And it's not just men that do it to women. Women do it to women too. I'm not blaming men here. All the times I've said sorry, that wasn't always to men that I said sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That sisterhood wound. We spoke about it today on Haunted Playground, and which is an odd topic for Haunted Playground, but
it's okay. It's a haunted topic. Your haunted sisterhood wound.
It is. Yeah. The sisters are haunted. Absolutely. And yes, what we judge each other for, and then thus what we feel the need to apologize for. I have numerous times been accused of, coming on to another woman's man when nothing of the sort happened. Basically branded with a scarlet letter over nothing. And it's just that aspect of being a beautiful woman, of being a loving woman, and as sisters. We spoke about it today, that kind of aspect of our biology, right? That biological programming to be the most beautiful woman in the room. And if we're not, then, the cat claws come out, and we're trying
Or if you are, the cat claws come out at you for being so.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then you're stripped of everything else, right? You're stripped of your dignity. You're stripped of your intelligence. Because
beautiful women are branded as the slut. Strong women are branded as ugly. Women who are educated are branded as, we want to sleep with her because she's just not sexy. I mean, we're this constant branding that we're still doing in the year 2019. Well, I got a big surprise for all of you. These kids that are coming up now that are like 10, 12, 15 years old, they want to let go of gender altogether. So they don't even want to identify as a gender or identify their sexuality. They want everything to just be. So good luck boxing them, because they're creating a world where the boxes will be gone, a boxless world.
Yes. Yes.
Less at the landfills when we get rid of the boxes, people. It's going to
Yes.
solve a lot of our landfill problem. Just stop creating the boxes.
Yes, let us just be the light that inhabits the skin that we're in. And of
Right.
course, there is a beautiful biological experience of the divine to be had in this human body. For me, in this woman's body, for a man in a man's body, and for everybody in between, right? There's a beautiful experience, but it's not relegated. We spoke about it in the last show of how little those differences between gender really have to do with biology,
Yep.
right? And they're really more about enculturation. So I commend this younger generation for breaking out of that box and shifting their identity outside of just the skin they were given.
Yeah.
And starting to relate to each other on that deeper level, spirit to spirit, soul to soul, heart to heart, you know, and, though it is a beautiful dance between the masculine and the feminine, that dance begins inside of you as an individual.
Absolutely.
You know, between those energies that we each carry in our own selves, the masculine and the feminine, and you bring that into balance within yourself,
Yeah.
into harmony within yourself, you embrace your feminine and your masculine equally, then guess what? It will be effortless when you're in relationship with another. You know, when I met my former husband, he's very much a man's man, beautiful in that way, and yet very balanced and into his feminine. But with that man's man, it was like the first real guy I'd been with. Like,
wow.
Sorry, all the other guys, like, you're wonderful, but I'd always dated kind of softer men, kind of more feminine to some degree or another, where I kind of had to play masculine roles of caretaker in that provider kind of way or whatnot. And this was the first time, and I found myself just like, I would just be giddy and, just like such a girly girl all of a sudden. And it was such a pleasure, actually.
Okay.
Because I had already embraced that in myself. Lord knows the man before that I hadn't embraced that so well with, and that was certainly what he wanted to call forth out of me, and I fought it as much as I could.
Okay.
Yeah, that tomboy in me wasn't quite dead yet, and I definitely perceived the feminine to be weak.
That tomboy's still not dead, Rebecca.
No, she'll never die.
She's still in there.
Yeah, she'll never die. I love her. She's great.
a tough cookie.
I'll always
drive
want to
a
get
tank.
down in the dirt. Yes, kind of.
You drive a combat vehicle, Rebecca.
Not really.
In Los Angeles.
It's a yellow Jeep.
Yeah, it's a yellow
Her name-
combat Jeep.
Her name is Sunny, okay?
Oh my God.
There's no war to be fought in that Jeep.
Well, if you can imagine me as a Jeep or Rebecca as a Jeep, it much more looks like me as a Jeep. It's a big, tough Jeep.
It is pretty bitched out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So, it was really beautiful in my relationship with my former husband because we were both already embraced in our feminine and our masculine
Sure.
inside.
That's
So
beautiful.
there was no battle, and really we took turns very seamlessly and effortlessly. And never did he ask me to apologize for being a woman. He never asked me to apologize for being beautiful, right? That was one thing that in at least one prior relationship, this man was just very, insecure about that.
Sure.
And accused me of wanting that kind of attention from men merely because it was coming, merely because I would dress nicely to go out. And really, I was dressing nicely for him because he was, a nice man, and I thought that's what he wanted. And I was dressing nicely for him, not to get attention from other men. And yet there I was being accused of asking for this attention from men. And, that was something I had already walked through in my life. Certainly we can recognize that as any gender, right? That, when we're really holding our sexuality out in front of us and looking for that kind of attention as we walk down the street.
Sure.
But I had already walked through that long before that man, and yet he accused me of that. So I really felt like I couldn't quite be all of me around him. I didn't exactly apologize for it to him, but I apologized that it made him feel uncomfortable. And I did end up changing my behavior. So I was sorry, not sorry. And yet, I let the sorry take a hold. And I did change my behavior. I curtailed friendships with other men because I grew up with 3 brothers, and being kind of a tomboy, I used to always have more guy friends than girlfriends. So that was just kind of a sad time for me because I did feel the need to curtail that. Whereas with my former husband, he never asked me to apologize for that. And he was very clear where his boundaries were, what would make him uncomfortable and what wouldn't. And I was willing to accept that line, that line in the sand. Basically, I wasn't allowed to sit in another man's lap, which was fine with me.
That was actually something you discussed?
Well, that was his joke about where his line was. So it wasn't much of a line.
I never told my partners not to sit in somebody else's lap.
Just don't sit in another guy's lap and we'll be okay.
I wouldn't care.
Okay, yeah, I think I can manage that one.
Yes.
So, there's one example of what we, as women, find ourselves apologizing for being a woman, for being a beautiful woman, for being a sexy woman, for getting that kind of sexual attention from other men and from other women. What are some of the things that you find yourself apologizing for in relationship?
Well, I always found in relationship that there was always this unsaid thing, a little bit with my partners, a lot bit with people that surrounded us, friends of theirs, friends of mine, friends of ours. Because of, because I'm a bigger girl and I'm not, a beauty queen looking girl. Although I actually like the way that I look. I feel very comfortable in my own skin and I think I'm very attractive, but maybe not other people think as much as me. Who knows? There was always sort of this, well, you should just be lucky that someone wants you. So don't make waves. So much like my career in a different way, in exactly the same way, just in a different circumstance. And so I found myself putting up with a lot of really bad behaviors from partners because I felt my alternative was nothing. So in high school, I dated the one that just cheated with everyone. I'm still discovering people that guy cheated with. And then I dated a guy in college who was very sweet and very devoted and then became very racist. And I put up with a lot of that behavior because I wasn't sure what to do with it. Then I dated a lovely man who's still a very good friend of mine, but had horrible problems with addiction and unchecked mental illness. And there was some lack of monogamy there too, and a lot of self-destructive behavior. And I sort of mothered him through that time. And, as I said, I love him. He's a wonderful man and we'll always be friends. And then I dated a monster who was just a monster. And I didn't know. I think universe sometimes will throw. Here goes my universe lesson now. Can you believe it's 24 minutes in and I didn't mention anything spiritual till now? Universe will sometimes throw you the same lesson again and again and again until you learn it. And I guess I had to bottom out in relationship with somebody who was so abusive and so terrible and so uncaring and basically told me every day, you can't get anything but me. Nobody else will love you. Nobody even really likes you. And you should be lucky I stick around and allow you to do the grocery shopping, clean my house, and spend all your money. And I bought into that. There was a part of me that believed that story all along. And when someone finally came out and said it point blank to me, I thought, you know what? That's right. And what's been wrong with my life this far is nobody really likes me. Nobody understands me. Nobody thinks I'm attractive. And that's what everything that's wrong with my life until now has been about. And then I got broken down, and I gained 200 pounds. So I was 200 pounds heavier than I am now. I was a big girl. And I got more and more unhappy and more miserable. And at the same time, energetically, my career just died. And I was stuck in a terrible place. And it was either literally die of unhappiness, or start to realize that I was enough. And sometimes you have to bottom out to realize that you're enough. And before everybody sits and says, oh my God, that guy must have been terrible. Let me just tell you, it wasn't a guy. So there goes that myth. It was not a man.
Yeah.
Not to say my relationships with men were perfect or anybody ever valued me for who I was, but it was never that bad. And I something interesting happened to me. I broke. And then I put myself back together again. And as I put myself back together again, I realized, you know what? You don't have to pay for someone to love you. And you don't have to do all the housework for someone to love you. And you don't have to buy all the groceries for someone to love you and put up with someone's abuse and they're cheating and they're telling you you're worthless just so they will love you, because you are worth it. And I think you have to stand in a place of saying, if I never work in the career I want, if I never have another relationship, I'm okay with that as long as I love myself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have to be willing to give up everything for love of yourself. Mm-hmm. And then once you gain that strength inside yourself, then of course everything comes. Mm-hmm. Because all along, what the good stuff was waiting for was for you to literally take out the trash inside of you and get rid of the toxicity that you didn't need and fill yourself with light. Mm-hmm. And I did it, and it changed my life forever. And then once that was done, then I had to start doing it with friends, because there were people in my life that were just my friends that were still part of that story that I had allowed others to tell about me and I had bought. So, you have to learn to love yourself above all things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a harder road for women because of how we're socialized and culturalized. But it's interesting what you said about a man killing you, Rebecca. I grew up in a household where I'm fairly 100% sure my mother could have killed my father. Mm-hmm. And I think he knew that, and that was why he behaved a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I went out into the world not really thinking there was a big gender difference. It was something I learned as I went through my life. It was not something I got from my mother and went into the world thinking was going to happen.
Right, yeah. Well, I love what you shared, because it really is, the heart within the heart of our sorries, of that aspect of not feeling that we are enough, of not feeling that we deserve love. And, when we really shift that wound, and I'd say that wound lives in just about every human heart, not necessarily born into the human heart, but definitely domesticated into it. Mm-hmm. From our very first broken heart, which is not with our first boyfriend or girlfriend. It's usually long before that. And it's really the first time that we believed we were anything other than love, that we were anything other than God. And that's when our heart really truly broke, and that we became separated from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then the search to return to ourselves began, but we were searching outside. And so to me, that sorry, not sorry, when we say we're sorry, but we're not really sorry, is that reach that is coming from that broken heart, from that place that doesn't feel that we're worthy, that feels that we're separate, that somehow we need another to complete us, another job, another boyfriend, another husband, another wife, another, something outside, another church, that we need that other to complete us. And so we grovel for it. We get down on our knees and we grovel for it. And that's what needs to stop. It's not the humility that needs to stop. It's not the surrender that needs to stop, because true humility, is not actually giving anything up in the name of, right? True humility stands in love. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so nothing is lost, And sorry, I was kind of playing with the word as an acronym. And, in that word sorry, which first of all, I don't really prefer to say I am sorry. We've talked about this. Yeah. To me, it denotes like a state of being, like I'm a sorry, sad sack. Right? No. Versus,
I say it to other people if something's going on with them. I'll say I'm so sorry. So
yeah.
I do say it a lot. Sometimes people yell at me my new agey friends yell at me for saying it. But
yeah. Well, in that context, I would say like I feel for you. Okay. I sympathize. I hear you. I feel you. I see you.
Right.
I apologize. I apologize. Is one of the ways that I like to say it. But anyway, I broke down the word sorry. And, with the shame, that shame, right? We were just talking about that unworthiness, that shame of self. And that's really like kind of where it all starts, right? And then obligation. We feel obligated to something, right? Or to someone's feelings, to some right or wrong way to be in the world, right? One of the R's could be regret. Right, which is different than shame. Regret, regret is something that we feel we've lost. right? We're grieving
Yeah.
something, right? We regret that we lost something.
Or that we did wrong, maybe, you know?
Yeah. And so, and there is a lot of that, like, oh, I don't want to lose this, and so I will say I'm sorry, right? Or I want to get this back, so I will say I'm sorry. You know, and then the other are, I really wanted to call it redemption.
Okay.
You know, and yet I realized that in this context, you know, that was more the medicine, and it's really more repentance. What are we agreeing to repent? Like, what are we agreeing to never do again? Okay, because this is really important when you're doing your sorry, not sorry, because you want to check what am I agreeing to? You know, am I, like with that man that had a hard time with the attraction of other men to me? You know, I secretly, even to myself, you know, basically agreed to not have my friendships with men anymore.
Yeah.
To not be affectionate towards men, and to kind of dumb myself down, my beauty down, you know, dial it back, and not put my energy out there the way I normally do, which is just in a loving way.
Yeah.
And of course, men are attracted to that. And, you know, I used to kind of dim that light on my own just to keep myself safe. And yet it wasn't a happy place to live. So I decided I'll keep myself safe in other ways. So that repentance, you know, what are you really agreeing to never do again in your sorry? You know, and then the why comes back to that yield. Okay, so what or whom are you yielding to? And what is the yield? What is the gain? What is the return, right? Oh, I'm getting their love back. I'm winning their love back. I'm maintaining my job security, right? So those are some questions you can ask yourself. Just break it down. What is the shame? What is the obligation? What is the regret? What is the repentance? And what is the yield? Okay? And, you know, coming into this last bit of the show here, you know, are there any other whys that you want to share personally, Sheena?
God, I could sit here and share whys all day, sweetheart. I just think that it's daily work to make sure that you're not yielding to others. It's not something that you learn not to do once and then you never do it again. Maybe it is for some people. It hasn't been for me. It's identifying in your life, who am I constantly apologizing to? And, you know, it's not a secret. I don't know if I talked about this last week, but here I go. I work in the narcissistic abuse support world because obviously I survived a narcissist for a very long time. And in that world, and in the psychological world, there's a term called gray rock syndrome. So when you're around somebody who is a narcissist or who has intense insecurity, so they're narcissistic-esque, one of the ways to deal with them is you make yourself a gray rock. So if they don't see that there's any shine to you, then it doesn't irritate them. It's also the theory of walking on eggshells. So if Rebecca, if you dimmed got rid of your friendships with men and dimmed your sexy, then you weren't being threatening to this man. If I dim my shine, then I wasn't being threatened to the narcissist that I was involved with. If I just wasn't that great, then there wasn't a fight. But if I tried to shine in any way or be charismatic or know something or be smart or be a good driver or somebody liked me, then I was doing something. So I backed away from everything. So I wasn't being yelled at all the time. And I think in our lives, we need to be careful of turning into the gray rock. Because the universe has given every one of us a special set of gifts and traits and wonderful, loving things about us that are here to brighten the world and raise the vibration of everything. And if we allow those things to be dimmed, we're not really fulfilling our place in the universe. And if we allow those things to be dimmed for a person who has filled themselves up with negativity and darkness, then darkness wins. Sorry, not sorry, darkness wins. So you know, it's so important that you be who you were put here to be and not to be apologizing for it and not be sad about it and not worry. And, you know, we live in a world where the media shames us. And we see everybody's shame on social media. We see it in television, in reality television shows. We see the human animal at its basest, where everyone is shaming everyone. And it's so important that we don't give in to that idea, either as becoming gray rock or being someone who shames someone else into becoming gray rock. You don't want to check yourself and make sure you're not either of those things on a regular basis, because we are here to lift each other up, because what universe wants is for everyone's traits to be flying and beautiful and to be like a gorgeous big banner in front of them when they walk into a room. Not people feeling like, oh my God, I have to worry about sitting down next to my friend's boyfriend because I'm beautiful. Everyone's going to think I'm making a move on him. Or, with me, because I shine, I burn bright and I'm charismatic, I have to worry when I walk in a room that insecure people don't think I'm trying to steal their job or their life or their career, or what's she doing here and why is she so happy and is she coming to take mine? We need to walk away from the scarcity consciousness that makes us think that everyone else is coming for our thing.
And the one-dimensional point of view. It's kind of like, oh, well, you were this, and now you're this. It's like, well, I am all. I am all things. I can be all things. And that doesn't negate what I just was a moment ago. As you were sharing that just how often for me, being a tomboy, I have felt the need to apologize for emasculating a man. Because I grew up with a single mother, for the most part. Love you, Dad. We're like best of friends now. Very much a big part of my life now. And yet, my mother was a very independent, stubbornly so woman, and very capable. And so I grew up that way. And as a result, I traveled to LA with my tool bag in the back of my Jeep. Not just tools to fix the Jeep, but tools to fix the water pipes, which thankfully I had, because I did need to do some repairs in my new little studio. And, I've definitely been with men before that were very threatened by that. And I wasn't being shaming towards them.
Right.
That they didn't know what they were doing when trying to fix a water pipe, but there I was fixing it, and there was no pride on my part. There was no shame against them, and yet there was this reaction of, how dare you? And so that's one aspect that I think we all really have to be careful of, beyond the one-dimensional of just, hey, look, it's okay. It's okay if you don't know how to fix a water pipe, and my ability to do that is not shaming you and your inability to do that. Isn't it great that I can? Because you can't. Well, and if you can, then by all means, here's the wrench. Go for it.
Right. If you want to fix, anybody out there wants to fix my water pipe or come over and fix my shower, feel free to do it. You're welcome. I'll give you my address. Isn't that sad that we're instead of lifting ourselves up, we're trying to pull other people down with us. And, I just had a talk with a client today, and he's in a situation kind of. And I said, it's really important that you, in partnership, show your partner that what they want is for you to get better and get more secure and get happier. So you take them with you, not the fear that you will constantly grow and then leave them. So they're always trying to stop you from growing.
Yes.
We need to train people. We need to train other people who don't get it on their own or who didn't get it from their parents, how to not be like that. It's not about pulling everybody down so no one advances. It's about encouraging everyone to advance and everyone to live their best life.
It's to be all things.
Yes.
That we don't have to be just one thing. We don't have to fit in that box.
Absolutely.
And so, what we've just touched on is, that aspect of apologizing for yourself. And it's not just apologizing for being a woman. It's also apologizing for being maybe a more masculine woman, according to society standards, right?
What does that even mean?
Even though women were the original craftsmen, I learned.
Of course.
We were the original ones building homes. So,
and the original shaman, the original holy people. The original druids. I mean, come on. I mean, men were good at going out and killing things and bringing them home. Great. It's great. But I would like to see a balance of power where some men and women want to be hunter-gatherers and some men and women want to stay home and be the druids. Fantastic.
Yeah, hunting, you can have it. I don't want it.
We don't by any means want to live in an Amazonian society where women do everything and men just are like in a sperm farm where we just harvest their sperm to make more people. That's not what we're talking about at all. Yeah. Although I would like to see that movie and I would like to go to a sperm farm. Not saying anyone should have one, but I would like to go to one if anyone knows where there is one. Of course, where all the men are consenting and volunteering. But I think the idea that that's how women are going to raise each other up is just to knock off all the men. Well, that's not going to help anything because we're already treating each other like crap. So when we rise up and take everything over, we're just going to start oppressing each other in layers. It's not going to be any different. The idea is that we all rise together or no one rises. And that it requires a certain amount of unity that really scares the crap out of people on some levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, it just came to my mind of, I think really if we were to just kind of boil down what we are sorry, not sorry for, most often, if we really break it down, everything that we've shared is like some kind of feminine superpower. And I call feminine, just assume that it's always air quoted feminine, okay, because we are all things. But you could break it down to just those feminine superpowers. I've been asked to apologize for my love. I've been asked to apologize for my beauty. I've been asked to apologize for my mothering, for my caretaking. It's too much. Your mothering is smothering. Your beauty is,
people honestly
too alluring.
Tell you that? Hey, Rebecca, mothering is smothering. Have people told you that?
No. Actually, I came up with that one on my own. But that's certainly the interpretation. It's
our
like,
hashtag for today.
Run the other way. Like, oh my gosh, this woman, she's so loving. Like,
I run towards you because you're so loving.
Well, you're kind of a smart one.
Because I don't believe that hashtag mothering is smothering.
We'll talk about that one because it certainly can be. Mothering can be smothering. I get you guys.
You know what my mom used to say? What's the difference in a Rottweiler and a Scorpio? Eventually, the Rottweiler lets go. So maybe she knew that mothering was smothering, and I just like it.
I think you do like the mothering.
I do like to be mothered. I think we should all mother each other more.
Yes, absolutely. I think we should all be the mother. All of us, men and women, really adopt that. And I think we could really boil it down to feminine superpowers that we're just asked to apologize for. And, standing in our power is not something to apologize for. Standing in your truth and speaking your mind, speaking your heart is not something to apologize for. Even if it hurts somebody's feelings, you can apologize, that they were hurt by it. But hey, let's have a discussion, let's have a discussion, right? Let's have a discussion about that. Let's walk through this, because this is what's really going to heal the chasm between the sexes and between the sisterhood, is really to have this honest dialogue where once I full on believed, like, just say you're sorry, like it's just not worth it, right? No, it is worth it. We live in a time where it is worth it. Your seeds may go into infertile soil, right? And bothering to have that discussion with somebody. And yet they just might land and they might just grab onto that drop of water and that little sliver of sunlight that breaks through. It just might grow. And I feel that we're in a time where people are more and more willing. We're also a little more shaken up, but that's good because our stuff is up on the surface. And so it's time for these honest dialogues. It's time to not apologize for our mothering, to not apologize for our love, for our beauty, for our sexy, for our candidness, for our straightforwardness, for our bitch, to stop even calling it a bitch. A woman empowered is not a bitch. A woman empowered, sexually empowered, is not a slut. We need to stop apologizing for these things and instead speak our voice, speak our heart, and into a place where hopefully it can become understood. It can be seen for what it is. Okay, rather than the deception, that we all have been holding in that old ancient shame, right? Let's stop casting Eve out of the garden. And that begins inside of ourselves.
And apples for everyone.
Yes, apples for everyone.
Well, and you need to stop, first and foremost, my friends, apologizing for yourself. You be you, just be you. My mama used to say, just do your thing. Just do your thing. You be you. And if people can't hang with that, those aren't your people. But if you don't take the chance to walk away from those that aren't your people and find your people, if you just stay in that place of, I'm sorry, I'll be whoever you want me to be, just don't ever leave me, you're never going to find your people. And that makes me the saddest of all, because we all need to find our people.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly there are situations where it's just in your best interest to just walk away and go find those people that aren't asking you to apologize for yourself. But the point is, don't apologize for yourself. Don't do the sorry, not sorry. Okay. Now, I did make a post today about the superpower of surrender, and that we were going to kind of dive into that today. We don't have a whole lot of time left because we actually have to cut the show 10 minutes early for ads and whatnot. But I do want to touch on it because it may sound a little contrary to what I've just said, like speak up for your truth, don't do the sorry, I'm not sorry. I hold true to that. And the surrender, the superpower of the surrender is that you surrender to your own truth. You surrender to that love that you are. You surrender to the reality at play here. That yes, maybe you said something and it was heard in this way. And so let's let that truth be part of the dialogue of I spoke, you heard. And now let's talk about that versus in that place of I'm sorry. Okay. Let's surrender to the truth. Let's surrender to the love between us and to the faith that we can come to, that we can find that bridge where we can meet in the middle in understanding. That's the surrender. That's where it becomes the shame can move into a surrendered place that isn't surrendering to the shame, that isn't surrendering to the obligation, to the regret, to the repentance, to the need to yield, but rather surrendering in that truth, in that strength, right? I feel you. What is it?
No. I just think I'm just so proud of you because this is so beautiful.
Oh, thank
I'm just
you.
so happy for you and so proud of you because you're doing such a good job.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm just loving you so much right now. I'm just smiling because I'm happy at what you're saying.
Well, thank you. Well, I hope this is translating to you guys. We'll definitely talk more about that superpower of surrender.
About surrender. Yeah. Next show.
Next show. We'll pick up where we left off here and really dive into that. And in the meantime, I really, really encourage you all to please join our Facebook group. It's called Shameless Feminine Speaks, same as the title of the show. And there's a link to it on the show page on latalkradio.com. Or you can just search it in Facebook, Shameless Feminine Speaks, and we'll happily add you. It's open to all of you, all walks of life. And that's where, we post the live stream, and then you can engage in the conversation live. And we really encourage you to do that. I've had my phone up here, and, if anybody were sharing something here that they wanted me to address on the show or asking a question, it would absolutely become part of this show. So if it were on topic, and if it's not on topic, then we make notes. We revisit the chat room every time we engage with each of you, and it could become the topic for next show. That's actually how this show was born.
It's true.
Because somebody responded to what Sheena shared as, that it really touched her heart. So, I listened to that. So please join the Facebook group. And if you're not a Facebooker, I am on Instagram. We don't do the live feed there on Instagram, but you can always message me there, or you can email me at ispeak@RebeccaHaywood.com.
Beautiful.
And Sheena, where can people find you?
You can find me at IamRaisingYourVibration.com and at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Everywhere on social media, just at Sheena Metal. I'm also the founder of a movement of peace and love and kindness and unity at RaisingTheVibration.org and IamRaisingTheVibration.com. Rebecca's on my vibration council, and I'm honored to have her. So please find me. I'm very accessible. My private Facebook is Sheena LA Host, all one word like La Host. Please friend me there if you want, and I'll come around the chat room and give everybody a friend request and say hi in a little while. So
great. Yeah, and I already gave out my email, and that's also my website, RebeccaHaywood.com, so you can find me there. I've got lots of blog posts there that you can read if you want some more of my teachings. And you can find me on social media pretty much everywhere as at Shaman Sister, because I am your modern day shaman and sister to all. So, and then the other thing I wanted to share today is that my publisher and dear friend, Betsy Chassie, has a new book out, and it's called All You Need Is Love. And you can find that. I'm going to put the post up in the chat room, or the link up in the chat room, but you can go and buy that book, and you can also buy Shamanism in the New Millennium, which I read from last week, and the other collaborative book I was a part of the year before called Dancing in the Unknown. Those are all up there at rampantfelinemedia.com. So go check it out. That book just launched last Tuesday.
And we met because of Betsy. So if you love this, show
Yes.
Betsy some love.
Oh, Betsy's incredible. She was the co-producer, co-director, co-writer of What the Bleep Do We
Yep.
Know?
She's on the advisory board for my nonprofit.
Yeah, she's incredible. So please go check it out, rampantfelinemedia.com, and I will post the link in the chat room. Okay, guys? Thank you so much. Tune back in next week, same time, same bat channel. We love you all.
You're listening to Shameless Feminine Speaks with your host, modern-day shaman and sister to all, Rebecca Haywood, right here on LA Talk Radio.